My name is Sarah Chen. I'm 29, and I learned the hard way that trust is the most expensive currency in Silicon Valley. 8 months ago, my business partner and supposed best friend Marcus Williams orchestrated my removal from TechFlow, the AI analytics startup I conceived, coded, and built from nothing. He convinced our board that I was too emotional and lacked strategic vision for leadership. What Marcus didn't know was that my quiet, unassuming demeanor hid connections and resources that would soon turn his victory into his worst nightmare. Marcus and I met during our MBA program at Stanford. While he networked at every party, I spent nights in the computer lab perfecting algorithms. He was charismatic, well-connected, and came from old Silicon Valley money. I was the daughter of immigrants, working 3 jobs to pay tuition. When I pitched TechFlow, a revolutionary platform that could predict market trends with 94% accuracy, Marcus immediately wanted in. "You're brilliant, Sarah, but you need someone who understands the business side," he said with that charming smile that fooled everyone, including me. For 2 years, we worked 18-hour days building TechFlow from my tiny apartment. I wrote every line of code while Marcus handled investors and partnerships. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was creating technology to predict market behavior while completely missing the signs of Marcus's betrayal. He gradually positioned himself as the visionary CEO, while painting me as merely the technical lead. When venture capitalists visited, Marcus did all the talking while I demonstrated the product. "Sarah's incredible with the back-end stuff," he'd say dismissively. The betrayal came during our Series A funding round. Marcus had been whispering to investors for months, suggesting that my abrasive personality and inflexibility made me unsuitable for scaling the company. He painted himself as the diplomatic leader who could manage difficult personalities, meaning me. The night before the board meeting that would change everything, Marcus took me to dinner at an expensive restaurant. "Sarah, you've done amazing work, but it's time to let someone else drive," he said, cutting his steak with surgical precision. The board meeting was a masterclass in manipulation. Marcus presented a reorganization plan that would make him CEO while I'd become CTO with significantly reduced equity and no decision-making power. "Sarah's technical contributions have been invaluable," he said with fake sincerity. "But we need proven leadership for our next phase." The investors, all men in expensive suits who'd barely acknowledged my existence, nodded approvingly. My objections were dismissed as resistance to change. Within hours, my life's work was legally stolen from me. The following months were brutal. Marcus systematically erased my contributions from company narratives, telling press that TechFlow was his brainchild with help from a talented development team. He hired his fraternity brothers for key positions while laying off developers who knew the truth about my role. When I tried to speak out, I was threatened with lawsuits for defamation and corporate espionage. Marcus had turned my creation into his personal kingdom, while painting me as a disgruntled former employee who couldn't accept a reduced role. What Marcus didn't know was that during our Stanford days, while he was networking at parties, I was building relationships too, just different ones. My study partner Chen Wei wasn't just another international student. He was the son of Chen Industries founder, one of Asia's largest tech conglomerates. My quiet lunch companion Jennifer Park wasn't just a shy accounting major. She was the daughter of Park Ventures' managing partner. While Marcus collected surface-level connections, I had formed deep friendships with people who valued substance over style. The turning point came 6 months after my ouster. Marcus had burned through most of our funding on lavish offices, expensive consultants, and his friends' inflated salaries. Meanwhile, TechFlow's performance was declining because he'd fired the developers who understood my algorithms and hired cheaper, less experienced programmers who couldn't maintain the code. The platform's accuracy dropped from 94% to 73%, and major clients were threatening to leave. Marcus was desperately seeking additional funding, but investors were asking hard questions about the declining metrics. That's when I received an unexpected call from Jennifer Park, now a senior partner at Park Ventures. "Sarah, we're hearing interesting things about tech flow in the market," she said carefully. "Some concerning performance issues. We're also hearing that the original technical architect might not be involved anymore." It was a fishing expedition, but I knew Jennifer well enough to read between the lines. Park Ventures was considering a hostile takeover, and they wanted to understand what had really happened to the company's technical leadership. 2 weeks later, Chen Wei called from Singapore. Chen Industries was expanding their North American operations and needed advanced analytics capabilities. "We've been watching TechFlow, but we're concerned about leadership instability and declining performance," he said diplomatically. "However, we understand that the original technical architect might be available for consultation." It was another carefully worded inquiry, but the message was clear. Chen Industries was interested in the technology, not Marcus's leadership. The perfect setup came when Marcus announced TechFlow's first annual client conference, a desperate attempt to project stability and attract new investors. He'd rented the grand ballroom at the Fairmont Hotel, hired expensive caterers, and invited everyone who mattered in Silicon Valley's AI sector. Marcus saw it as his coronation as a legitimate tech CEO. I saw it as the perfect stage for his humiliation. The week before the conference, both Park Ventures and Chen Industries quietly announced their intention to attend. The conference began exactly as Marcus had planned. He took the stage in an expensive suit, delivering a polished presentation about TechFlow's visionary leadership and innovative technology. He spoke confidently about market expansion and upcoming features, conveniently omitting the platform's declining performance and client defections. The audience of investors and potential clients seemed impressed by his charismatic delivery. Marcus was in his element, basking in applause and admiration while I watched from the back of the room. During the networking break, I noticed Marcus working the crowd with his usual charm, shaking hands and exchanging business cards with potential investors. He was particularly attentive to Jennifer Park and Chen Wei, not recognizing them, but clearly sensing their importance from their expensive clothes and confident demeanor. I watched him pitch TechFlow's unlimited potential and his own proven leadership track record, unaware that he was digging his own grave with every exaggerated claim. The demonstration session was where Marcus's house of cards began to crumble. He'd planned to showcase TechFlow's predictive capabilities using live market data, but the platform immediately crashed under the load of real-time analysis. His technical team scrambled to restart the system, while Marcus made increasingly desperate jokes about temperamental technology. When the system finally came back online, its predictions were wildly inaccurate, contradicting obvious market trends that anyone with basic financial knowledge could identify. Jennifer Park stood up during the Q&A session. "Mr. Williams, could you explain the technical architecture behind these predictions?" she asked innocently. Marcus launched into a buzzword-filled explanation that revealed his complete lack of understanding about his own product. "And could you tell us about the original development team? We've heard there was a significant technical contributor who's no longer with the company." The question hung in the air like a sword waiting to drop. Marcus's face went pale as he recognized the trap, but it was too late to escape. "The technical team was collaborative," he stammered. "Many people contributed to our success." Chen Wei stood up next. "Mr. Williams, Chen Industries has done extensive due diligence on TechFlow. Our analysis suggests that 97% of the core algorithms were developed by a single architect who left the company 6 months ago. Could you comment on how this departure has affected platform performance? The room buzzed with whispers as investors began connecting dots. Marcus tried to regain control, but his credibility was evaporating in real time. "I think there might be some misunderstanding about individual contributions," he said desperately. That's when I stood up from the back of the room. "Marcus, should I help clarify the technical architecture?" Every head turned toward me, and I saw recognition dawn on several faces. Journalists who'd interviewed me during TechFlow's early days, developers who knew the truth, investors who remembered my presentations. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, walking toward the stage with calm confidence, "my name is Sarah Chen, and I'm the actual founder and technical architect of TechFlow. Every algorithm currently running this platform was coded by me, in my apartment, using mathematical models I developed during my doctoral research at Stanford. Mr. Williams has spent 6 months trying to erase my contributions. But perhaps it's time to set the record straight about who really built this company." The silence was deafening. Marcus stood frozen at the podium while I calmly explained the real story of TechFlow's creation, my systematic removal from the company, and the technical debt that was now crippling the platform. I demonstrated deep knowledge of every system component, while Marcus couldn't answer basic questions about his own product. Phones came out as people began recording, and I could see journalists frantically taking notes. Marcus's carefully constructed narrative was collapsing in spectacular fashion. Jennifer Park approached the stage. "Ms. Chen, Park Ventures would be very interested in discussing acquisition opportunities with TechFlow's actual founder," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "We believe proper leadership could restore this platform to its original performance levels." Chen Wei nodded in agreement. "Chen Industries shares that assessment. We'd prefer to work directly with the technical architect rather than intermediaries." The message was crystal clear. These major investors wanted me, not Marcus. Marcus tried one last desperate play. "Sarah, you're under a non-compete agreement," he said shakily. "You can't just start competing with TechFlow." I smiled and pulled out my phone, opening an email from my attorney. "Marcus, my lawyer reviewed that agreement. It's null and void because it was signed under fraudulent pretenses. You represented yourself as a co-founder when you were actually an employee. But here's the interesting part. I still own the underlying patents for TechFlow's core algorithms because they were developed before our partnership agreement." The crowd gasped as the full implications hit home. Marcus had built his empire on quicksand, and now it was swallowing him whole. Without my patents, TechFlow was just an expensive interface wrapped around algorithms he didn't own or understand. "Furthermore," I continued, "I've already filed trademark applications for the TechFlow name and logo, which were created by me and never properly assigned to the company." Marcus, you don't just lose control of the technology, you lose the right to use the brand name. Investors began approaching me directly, ignoring Marcus entirely. Business cards flew as venture capitalists, tech executives, and potential clients lined up to speak with TechFlow's real founder. Marcus stood alone at the podium, watching his stolen empire crumble while I fielded offers from some of Silicon Valley's biggest names. The irony was perfect. His own conference had become the venue for his professional destruction and my triumphant return. Within 48 hours, the story exploded across tech media. "The real founder of TechFlow speaks out," read TechCrunch's headline. Forbes published an investigation into Marcus's pattern of taking credit for others' work. The New York Times ran a feature about gender discrimination in Silicon Valley, using my story as a case study. Marcus became the poster child for everything wrong with tech culture: privileged, incompetent men stealing credit from brilliant women and minorities. The financial consequences were swift and brutal. TechFlow's remaining investors demanded Marcus's immediate resignation and my reinstatement as CEO. When Marcus refused, they triggered liquidation clauses that effectively dissolved the company. Major clients canceled contracts within days, citing concerns about leadership integrity and technical competency. Marcus's reputation was so thoroughly destroyed that he couldn't find another position in Silicon Valley. His carefully cultivated network abandoned him as toxically radioactive. Meanwhile, Park Ventures and Chen Industries partnered to fund my new company, TechFlow 2.0, with $50 million in Series A funding and a $200 million valuation. Jennifer Park joined as chairman while Chen Wei took a board seat, giving me both the capital and connections to scale properly. This time, I maintained majority control and surrounded myself with advisors who valued substance over style. The new TechFlow launched 6 months later with 99.2% prediction accuracy and immediately captured Marcus's former clients. The personal satisfaction went beyond financial success. Marcus had tried to erase my contributions and steal my life's work, but his own hubris had created the perfect conditions for spectacular justice. He'd gathered the entire Silicon Valley ecosystem to witness what he thought would be his coronation, only to have it become his public execution. The conference he'd planned as his triumph became the moment his lies were exposed and his career destroyed. Today, TechFlow 2.0 is valued at $2 billion and employs over 500 people. We've expanded into 3 countries and serve clients from Goldman Sachs to the Federal Reserve. Marcus, meanwhile, moved back to his parents' house in Connecticut and works at a small consulting firm, a cautionary tale whispered in Silicon Valley boardrooms. Sometimes, justice isn't just served, it's served with a side of perfect irony and witnessed by everyone who matters.